with CCE, and your presenter for today. We're going to be talking about Grant Writing 101. I'm going to ask if everyone can save their questions and just put them into the chat. We will answer all questions at the end. That way we can get through all the content, and maybe you'll get your question answered along the way. So a little bit about me. This is a little bit out of date at this point. I actually just celebrated my 20th year. And we, as I said, I focus on economic development. My husband and I have 3 kids. We have 2 dogs, 2 cats. And we used to have chickens, but then raccoons decided that they were a better buffet than whatever they could scrounge outside. So to kind of kick things off first, I just wanted to get a sense of kind of who is here. If there's anyone who has gotten a grant or a loan before for their farm. If there's someone here who maybe has something that they'd like to get done. And, as well, if there's anyone here who's, started to do research about what grants are out there and you've just gotten really frustrated because it can be like going down a little bit of a rabbit hole. So I'd love if folks wanted to put into the chat if you fall into any of those categories or kind of what's bringing you here today. Great. I see some folks are popping stuff into the chat. This is always great. Yeah, so there was a little bit, we did need to shift the topics for this month due to our other presenter currently being on vacation this week. So next month will be on produce auctions. This month is on grant writing. So hopefully you had signed up for both of them, but if not, you're welcome to hop off and we will see you all next month. Great, Nancy mentioned she got a USDA Business Builder Award. Kimberly mentioned that she's applied for a grant, but didn't receive it. And then we have some other folks in here just trying to understand about, what's relevant for their own county. Julie got the John May Safety Grant. Yeah, Elizabeth, I'm not sure how I might have an echo. I don't think anyone else should be able to have their microphone on right now. All right, so let's get moving. So, often folks are asking, well, why should I get a grant? Why should I get a loan? What will that do for my farm? So, really grants or loans can help you address a specific project or challenge on your farm, but it's not free money. Right? It does often come with requirements or strings attached, and it can also come from a variety of sources. So it's really important to know, kind of what that source is and what their interests are. And we'll talk a little bit about that more as we continue this afternoon. So, first, most important is, how do you find a grant, right? It can be very, very confusing. It can be very challenging depending on, what it is that you're looking to do. So in thinking a little bit about the types of search terms that you might use, quite often grants or potential grants will fall into themes. So some of those themes might be things like business planning, adding value, maybe increasing farm viability, those falling more into the business development side of things. Other potential themes might be on-farm research or demonstration, maybe things that are about marketing or production. And then another category could potentially be farm energy conservation, maybe thinking about alternative energy, waste management, environmental production. Really, the takeaway here is when you're thinking about, applying for a grant and you're thinking about potential farm projects that you have, how can you think about it more thematically as opposed to so specifically to your own farm, so that way you can really try to hone in on what types of potential funders are out there, what types of projects are being funded currently. You want to think about what the grant is valuing versus what your farm is valuing. So again, The grants may be looking at things like job creation, innovation, new production practices, thinking about trialing new varieties, addressing production or processing challenges, infrastructure, construction, etc. And so you really want to think about what your farm wants to do versus what the grant wants to fund. Someone mentioned the John May Safety Fund. This is a really great opportunity if you have livestock on your farm, whether it's dairy or it's beef or other types of livestock. And so this opportunity through NYCAM, the New York Center for Ag Medicine and Health, they have a grant program, which is a cost share, which can help you address safety issues on your farm. So again, thinking a little bit more other folks are valuing. Other potential options to consider might be things like the Ag Environment Management funding through your local soil and water conservation district. Those are other things, especially if you have environmental concerns potentially, as well as other projects. So we want to talk a little bit now about common grant components. These is common to most every grant application. So these are things that you want to be familiar with and really think about how you can start creating some of these pieces ahead of time so you'll have them ready to go. So these include farm history and your future plans, budget and financial projections for your farm, as well as for that particular component or project that you're thinking about. The project concept, what is it that you want to do, and the timeline, how long do you believe it's going to take you to do? What are those different steps that will need to happen? And that's really important because it shows the funder that you really thought it through about, what is going to happen in what order and who's going to have to be a part of this project in order to support it. How that project will impact the farm. We'll talk about that in a few slides. How the project will be accomplished, who is that team that you have or will need to put in place in order to ensure that your project can happen successfully. Different types of required documentation, and oftentimes grants are looking for community or partner support, really showing again, that this is something that is important not just to your farm, but to the greater industry or to your community. So when we think about timelines for grants, it's really important to understand that most programs have a regular cadence for when they release, review, and approve their project applications. So this may or may not be during your slower time. So you really want to be aware of what that cadence is for those particular programs. So again, you can maybe start to get some things ready ahead of time so you're ready to go. The typical time frame for applications may be as much as 2 months if you can catch it right. It seems to be about what is happening currently, but then review may take as much as 6 months, and then you have contracting before you even receive the award, et cetera. So this is something that is a long-term endeavor. If it's a short-term situation, something that needs to be fixed quickly, then grants may not be the best solution for you to be considering. So often grants will also have farm eligibility. So you want to understand if you're eligible to apply for that grant, loan, or cost share program. That can include your business structure. Are you filing farm taxes? Are you filing taxes at all? Do you have a formal business structure? Farm production practices, often, grants are looking maybe at certain production practices or certain ways that a farm is operating. Do you have the ability to implement the project and provide that cash flow? Every single grant is reimbursement based, which means that you have to have the money or be able to acquire a bridge loan in order to complete that project before you get reimbursed. So it is important to consider that when you're thinking about, if you want to apply for a grant, that you need to have access to that funding in some way. You really want to have solid record keeping and finances, because grants are going to be looking for you to be providing previous tax records. Maybe they want a profit and loss statement. Maybe they want cash flow. So these are all things that you want to have in place and really, be able to access quite easily. And then you also want to have comfort with technology and be able to respond to things in a timely fashion. Just one example of this would be currently New York State Department of Ag and Markets has their tariff credit program that's currently just open for a few more days. And there has been some challenges with producers who really just don't have the comfort level to be able to be uploading or being able to access the required documentation. And so working with FarmNet and other CCE folks who can help them, understand how to upload documents and how to utilize different types of technology. So if you perhaps aren't as comfortable with certain types of technology, then you'll definitely want to find someone who is that can help you, should you decide to think about applying for certain grants or other programs. So here's just an example, a few different examples of what farm eligibility might look like. So the first is for the New York State Beginning Farmer Program, which just closed its second round of applications just about a month ago. And so for their program, beginning farmers are those who meet these three criteria. They've not operated a farm for more than 10 years. They're actively involved in day-to-day farm management and who operate a commercial farm in New York State, commercial meeting that at least $1,000 guideline as set by USDA. FSA has a little bit of a different farm eligibility guideline. So they make direct and guaranteed farm ownership and operating loans to family-sized farms and ranchers who cannot obtain commercial credit from a bank, farm credit system, or other lender. So the eligibility is, around being able to prove that you haven't been able to receive that commercial credit from those other lenders. And then they talk a little bit about kind of how that money can be used, which is also really, really important. And we'll get to that in a minute, but understanding, how you can use the funding, what are the eligible uses is very, very important when you're thinking about if the project that you want to do fits the funder. So when we're talking about farm history and your farm plans, this can be something as simple or as detailed as you want to make it. I found this example in the University of Minnesota Ag Plan. We'll share the link with all of you later, but this is a really great online business planning tool specifically for agriculture and for farms. And within their business planning template, they offer really great examples. And so here's an example of a farm history for a livestock and field crop farm. And so you can see here their farm history really just talks about, what their farm looks like, where it's located, kind of who are the folks that are involved in operating their farm. So moving on, another very important component of thinking about writing a grant is putting together a budget. So as I said, all grants are reimbursement based. So you need to have a mechanism in place to fund that project to completion. Typically that would be a bridge loan, or maybe it would be savings that you have in your farm bank account, or some other line of credit perhaps, in order to fund the project. And then you would request reimbursement at the rate in which the grant or other program has allowed. You want to have a farm budget and a project budget, because if you don't know how much things truly cost, it's difficult to assure the funder that you can actually accomplish that project. So you want to be doing research. You want to know who the folks are that typically operate within that industry, if it's related to equipment, if it's related to supplies. You want to really just have a good handle on, what does that look like? What are the true costs? And then having financial projections. Funders want to know that you understand your farm's financial trends on an annual basis. That's important to be able to show that you understand, the ebb and flow of what happens within your farm, within your industry, and then, how that particular project is going to implement, what's happening with your farm finances. So all farms will require you to provide a budget. Often they will provide a template. Typically it is within Excel. So again, feeling comfortable using different types of technology. Here's just an example from a farmer grant program. I believe it's from the SARE farmer grant program. And this just shows kind of for a typical project, what costs you might consider. So things like travel, things like communications, things like if you had to purchase equipment or if you had to buy supplies, and how you want to think about it. So understanding again, what are all those different components of the project, breaking them down into essentially, who's going to be involved, how is this going to be supported, how is the grant and the budget going to support that. When it comes to costs, you want to read very, very carefully what the eligible and ineligible costs will be and what the match requirements are, because in every grant, the match percentage may be different. How the match can occur will be very different. And so you really want to understand what's eligible and ineligible in terms of how you can spend those funds, as well as how they need to be matched. Any costs incurred prior to your application award will not be reimbursed. So that's very, very important to understand. It's also important to understand that costs will change over time. So if you're looking to purchase a piece of equipment, potentially, you're looking to have some construction work or excavation work done, those costs most likely will change over time. And so you want to think about how you can build that into your budget, or having a conversation with the program officer or somebody at that funder to say, how do they recommend that you approach that? Anything that you're proposing to spend money on must be documented, and the funders will have how they would like to see that done. Sometimes it can be as simple as a link to an online store. Maybe it's a copy of a quote. But again, it wants to be documented so that they can really see that it's not you looking to, your cousin Joe who lives down the road, who maybe, isn't necessarily qualified, isn't insured, doesn't have the skills to make the project happen. Next, on to required documentation. So there's typical types of documentation that would be required. This can be everything from that business structure documentation. If you are an LLC, you are a C Corp or an S Corp, being able to provide that documentation. Many grants or other programs, cost share programs, will look for a Schedule F. That's what you would file with your taxes, F for farm. So being able to provide however many years back that they're looking for that. Some may be looking for other financial projections, such as income statement, balance sheet, cash flow, or just financial projections for X number of years, to really be able to see again what the impact will be to your farm. They will be looking for a farm annual budget. They may be looking for you to indicate how you will bridge those grant costs. So do you have a line of credit? Have you spoken with a lender about a bridge loan? Do you have savings? How are you looking to pay for this project to be implemented before you're able to be reimbursed? Some grants may ask for a business plan. I do know that the most recent round of the New York State Beginning Farmer grant did ask that if farms did not meet the income threshold, that they had to provide a business plan. So again, that's something to consider, and we'll provide some resources at the end for organizations that can help you put one together. And then more and more grants are looking for that support in terms of from potential buyers or from other folks to really be able to show, that you do have a place for this product to go, or for that, for whatever's going to be happening. So when you think about the project concept, what you're trying to do, you really want to think about, what's the problem you're trying to solve, or is there an opportunity that you want to take advantage of? And so here again, I went online and I found just one example of, this is from a dairy goat farm. And so what they were looking at was this idea that often small scale dairy goat farms have limited acreage. And so they're having to purchase their feed and hay from external sources, and, looking at, are there other options that can really be used to create better forage, especially as our summers continue to have more drought conditions. And then that also increases the prices of those inputs. Then much more frequently, funders are also asking for, what the impact of this project is going to be to your farm. They want to know that farm level impact. So that can be in many different categories. It could be in labor. Maybe you're able to decrease your labor. Maybe you're going to need additional labor. Maybe it's going to increase your production. Maybe it will decrease your costs, which will increase your profit share. Maybe it will open up additional market channels. Maybe it's environmental. Maybe you're looking to lower your energy costs, or you're looking to address environmental concerns, or there may be other impacts. These are just some examples, but these are also ways to think about how you can better align your project that you're looking to do, the one that you want to get funded, with the goals of the funder. So when we put it all together, these are just some things that you want to think about. Here are just some examples. So I just went online and really just tried to see if I could find a few examples. So here we have, this is just an example. There's a 5-acre diversified vegetable operation in upstate New York. They've been selling for 4 years. They are certified organic. They have a CSA, and they go to 2 farmers markets. But they're really looking at, changing weather and how it impacts their production, and therefore is impacting their ability to sell, and to increase their farm income. So what they were looking to do was to receive funding in order to essentially upgrade their drip irrigation system with a solar powered pump, and also to implement a catchment tank, so that then they were able to save rain, so that then maybe when in the summer, when it goes 30 days, 45 days without raining, they would have access to water. So they had a few goals for their project. The first was to reduce their water usage by 35%, because now they have this high efficiency drip irrigation system. They're also looking to protect their topsoil from heavy runoff, and therefore increase their marketable specialty crop yield by X%. So here are just some ways to think about, again, what are the impacts to your farm, not just, I want to do this project, and this is why I think that it will be, a good idea. You also want to consider doing a SWOT analysis for your farm and for the project. Many grants are now looking for this, or at least this will help you better understand and get to that farm impact that we just talked about. So you want to think about the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats related to the project that you're looking to do. Strengths are internal to your farm. There are things that are under. Weaknesses are external. They're not under your control. Opportunities are things that are external and under your control. And then threats are external but not under your control. So here's just an example. This is actually from the New York State Beginning Farmer Grant program. They give some really great examples of how farms can think about doing a SWOT analysis for a grant project. So this project was to purchase and install cold storage to extend their apple season, but it could be for any type of produce. So as we can see, some of their strengths were that they're an established farm, they have a strong customer base, and they have experience growing multiple varieties. But some of their weaknesses were that they had limited cold storage capacity, which restricted their sales. They heavily rely on seasonal labor, and they have limited on-farm marketing infrastructure beyond their farm stand. Some of their opportunities were that they could grow consumer demand by having this cold storage unit, because it would give them the opportunity to extend their sales into winter months. They could then potentially form some partnerships with cider producers or food hubs, and also consider opportunities like agritourism. But then because they grow apples and produce, some of their threats were weather variability, right? Late spring frost that might impact their yields. They have pest and disease pressure. There could be competition from larger orchards that already have that infrastructure. And of course, it could raise their input costs, which could affect their farm profitability. So it's, as you can see from this example, it's really just getting you to dig a little bit deeper and think about, again, what are the things that are under your control, that you can use to leverage this idea that you have? What are the things that maybe aren't under your control that you just need to be aware of, and maybe the project would potentially mitigate? Also, as I stated earlier, oftentimes many grants will ask for support letters, and this is because they want you as the grantee to understand, the importance of support from your community, from buyers, from lenders, from ag support organizations. So these are folks who, A, will agree it's a good idea, and B, back you up when it comes to implementation, whether that's in purchasing the product that you're looking for, whether that is in actual help in implementing the project, whether that is related to recognizing that it's a good idea for your industry in general. There are 3 current, I shouldn't say current because they're existing right now, but just 3 existing farmer grant programs, which I'm aware of include this. The first is the SARE Farmer Grant. The next is the New York State Meat Processing Expansion Grant, which is currently open, and then the Northeast Dairy Processor Expansion Grant as well. So it's really important that you think about who the team is that's going to help you implement the grant. Do you have a team that has the skills to implement this grant? Are you going to be able to add the project manager hat to yourself, or, do you have somebody else that will be able to take that on? As I stated before, you need to have solid record keeping. So if that's not something that you feel comfortable with, then you definitely want to find someone that can. If you don't have a farm accountant or somebody that does your taxes or does your, pays your bills, just thinking about what that looks like. And really just understanding that depending on what the project is, that it may require skill sets that you don't have. So you want to ensure that you can find those in order to successfully complete the project. So really it's all in, coming up with that idea, leveraging your own farm. So it really explaining and understanding, how it's going to impact your farm in the long term. You want to be able to leverage your own personal strengths and that of your farm and your products and show how you are considering minimizing any potential risks. And then you really want to think about that funder connection. So what are the interest areas of the funder? And then also remembering that, you want to be connected to your local USDA office because often they may have funding that's available. You want to be a member of your local farm bureau because they may be able to connect you with funding sources, and then also being connected to your local CCE. So just a few resources that we wanted to share that we feel are really great. The first is the New York State Small Business Development Center. So every county is represented by a New York State Small Business Development Center advisor. Every center, which are typically at an educational institution, have a dedicated farm advisor. So if you want to find out who your local SBDC is, and they will have a farm advisor, and then they will be a really, really great connection for you. AgPlan, as I mentioned, which is an online business planning tool through the University of Minnesota. It's free and really great, super fun, super, consumer friendly. Cornell Cooperative Extension, Penn State Ag Alternatives is a really great resource if you're looking to better understand budgets and for a specific type of enterprise. If you're looking at starting something new, it's a really great way to get some benchmarks. Your local Soil and Water Conservation District and NRCS, Natural Resources Conservation Service, often do have funding pools. So getting in with them and letting them get to know you and what you're looking to do can open you up. And then, as I said, Farm Bureau. So with that, I'm going to stop the recording.